would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which I live and work, the Gundungurra land and people. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. I also want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which you, our listeners, are joining us from today. I recognise the deep connection that First Nations people have to this land, their enduring culture, and their commitment to the preservation and care for their country. This land was never ceded, and it always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Hey there, and welcome to Beyond the Surface, the podcast where we explore the stories of people who have survived religious trauma, left high control or cult communities, and are deconstructing their faith. I'm your host, Sam, and each week I'll talk with individuals who have taken the brave step to start shifting their beliefs that might have once controlled and defined their lives. Join us as we dig into their experiences, the challenges they've faced, and the insights they've gained. Whether you're on a similar journey or you're just curious about these powerful stories, you're in the right place. This is Beyond the Surface. Welcome, Liz and Jessie.
Thanks for having us, Sam.
I am so excited about this episode. You guys are my first couple, and I remember sending a manic voice memo to Liz going, I don't know if this is possible, but I kind of want to make it work. I thought of you guys first, and so I'm so grateful for you both being here. And is this technically your first podcast, Jessie?
Oh, no, I've done heaps of podcasts.
Not in this space.
Not in this space, yeah, in other spaces. Yeah.
Okay, but talking about this sort of stuff.
I think we've even done podcasts about this, our deconstruction a little bit, like our faith journey a little bit, yeah.
It's been a while, though.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Well, I'm so grateful to have you both here. I like to ask people where in the world you are for people who don't know you, although I'm pretty sure I'm going to take a guess that most of my listeners are going to know Liz. But where in the world are you at the moment?
We're on the Central Coast in New South Wales.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to suggest Liz has been on the podcast a couple of times already, one of those sharing her story. So I'm going to suggest to save a bit of time for people who don't know Liz's story to go back and have a listen to that. But for a bit of context for you, Jessie, give us, I guess, the Cliff Notes version of what life was like for you before you met Liz.
So I grew up in a family my first 5 years of life, I remember going to church. So, but never in it was like just going to church, and it was a Pentecostal church. My parents were pretty involved. It was like a small local church. And then one day we just stopped going, and I didn't really know why and didn't really understand why. And then my parents got divorced they separated when I was 10. And then I lived with my mum for a little while, and mum, she was fairly, I guess you'd say nominal. She didn't really have a faith or talk about faith or God or any kind of spirituality. And then when I was about 15, so my mum moved out of town. She lived on a farm, and so I lived with her. That was awesome growing up on a farm. And then when I turned 15, it was like, I want to be with my mates. I want to go to parties. I want a job. So it just became more convenient for me to live with my dad. And my dad was a fair bit more of the spiritual person of the two parental figures. And so my dad was a little bit more eclectic in his spiritual walk. So into everything.
Eclectic sounds like a very interesting word to use there.
Yeah. Oh, he was into everything. He was into, I remember him having books on Deepak Chopra, what else did he have? He'd talk about the Bible, but not in a very dogmatic way, in a very kind of open-handed way.
Yep.
And then, so I lived with my dad, and then my dad was a muso. My dad was a professional muso, so worked on the weekends and whatnot. And I got into music at high school, and that eventually led me to essentially working with my dad. So we ended up working together. And so I kind of had a fairly close relationship with him. And then one day when I was 21, he just started going back to church. He just So, and that was Liz's church. That was the church that her dad was a pastor of.
Yeah.
And I remember the pastor coming over a couple of times, and my dad was like, "Oh, it's really powerful, this church. There's something different, blah, blah, blah." And after him going for about a year, I was like, I'd never touch it. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. You know, I'm a muso, work on weekends. I want Sundays are sleep-ins.
Yeah.
But then one Saturday I was working with my dad, and he's like, "Oh, tomorrow's Father's Day." I'm like, "What do you want to do for Father's Day?" He's like, "Just come to church with me. That'll be cool." So I go to church with my dad, and I'm 21, grew up in a rural town, and walking in, and I can hear all this singing. Like, it's a small little scout hall, and the car park's full. We're late, and so we're walking in, and I walk in and I see people dressed in suits, and then there's bikies, and then there's like all these different personalities, and I'm like, I was just really struck, like, oh wow, what is bringing together such a diverse collection of people? And that was the start of my Christianity, real Christianity, from that point on. Yeah, and it was a Pentecostal church again. So
yeah. And so, what was how long between when you sort of like led into that Christianity space did you then start dating Liz? Like, when did Liz come into the picture for you?
So we became friends straight away. And we just built a really solid friendship, I think. And it was really, and then she went to Bible college at Hillsong. And that kind of like started, I think I've got feelings for it. Like, the distance made me go,
absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Heart grow fonder.
As they say.
Yeah. And that really, like, we were talking on the phone every week while she was at Bible college, or a couple of times a week. And I just really started to realize that I had feelings for it. Like, it was more than just a friendship. And it was kind of cool because our relationship was founded on a friendship. So, like, it wasn't, like, the romance had some solid foundation to build from. Yeah.
And I'm suspecting, and it's the therapist part of me that is like almost hypothesizing that, you know, in the relationships that I've seen in my office, that's the thing that is often having that foundation makes the rest of what this conversation is going to center on, it makes it so much more manageable and tolerable, as opposed to the relationships who were put together or who were arranged or who dated to marry and who, you know, didn't necessarily choose one another. And so I think it's such a big point.
My like, coming as a pastor and also counseling people when I was a pastor and stuff like that, one of the things, so I read a bunch of psychology post my Christianity. So
I love watching Liz's face while you're talking.
I have a loud face.
I've got a psychology, like behavioral science counselor kind of mind, because I love it. But I've done no formal training. So one of the things when I reflect is that romances that start with that romance honeymoon phase, but they don't build that solid foundation of friendship. Like, it's kind of like the icing or the froth in the bubble, and then when that goes away, what's left of that? Yeah. And so, and I think one of the things and we'll probably talk about why we're still together at some point, but part of the reason is because we built such a solid foundation of friendship in the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, when we first started hanging out, we became very good friends very quickly. And I'm 5 years younger. So I was like 16, I think, when we met, and just starting my rebellious partying, drinking. I'd go out drinking all weekend and like come to church and lead worship, sometimes a little bit drunk. And Jesse was sometimes...
Well, I was a muso, so I was out gigging.
So he was gigging in some of the establishments I would frequent.
And I'm like, oh, there's the pastor's daughter drunk. And then on Sunday morning, there's the pastor's daughter leading worship. And I'll be like, Liz, what's going on? Like, and I'm my New Zeal Christianity phase. And I'm like,
I was very concerned. But like, as we became friends and, you know, we were young people. So, you know, if we hooked up with someone on the weekend, we'd be each other's first call. Like, we were good friends, and we kind of knew a lot about each other when he finally realized that he liked me. I knew. So that's
Listen,
okay.
she's been here for a long time.
But yeah, no, it has saved us, I think, in the end, having a deep friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what were those early, because I mean, I talk a lot about, purity culture with people and the fact that part of that is, you date to marry and like courting and, all of that, like sort of really like very like one direction sort of thinking. What was that early part of your relationship like once you did realize that you liked one another? Let's not place blame. Once you realized that you liked one another, and you did want to start the transitioning into a different kind of relationship, what was that like in that space for both of you?
For me personally, I was I was 21 when I became a Christian, really. How long old was I when we got married?
You were 26.
26. So like
25.
Yeah. So like it was still the early days of my Christianity. I was really involved in the church. So I was really trying to toe that line, that purity culture line.
Yeah.
Never would like with the rationality I have now, never would have you love someone, committed to someone. I mean, yeah.
You let the relationship take its
natural course. Yeah. So it was challenging and also a good challenge. Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't I didn't at the time feel like I was limiting myself or holding myself back. It's probably different for Liz, and I could probably let her talk about that. I don't know.
Well, I grew up in purity culture where you probably didn't.
Yeah.
And so I think I'd had boyfriends and things, but I never had sex outside of marriage or anything like that. And my talk with my with my dad about becoming a woman was simply, if you come home pregnant, I'll kick you out. So I was a little scared of becoming pregnant, and that informed a lot of my early choices, like in the mid-teens. We moved to Jessiestown when I was 16, and I just started year 12, and I just started to rebel a little bit, like have my little foray into rebelliousness, I guess. And so I was trying to break some of those shackles off my life. So when we finally started dating, we had this really interesting situation. I can say, I was like, what the hell are we waiting for? Like, we're going to get married anyway. And Mr. I've just become a Christian and I'm trying to do the right thing was like, we are waiting till we are married. And I'm like, oh God, we're getting married like next week. Like and he was more like, it's next week. We can wait another week.
Yeah.
But I guess we lived apart for a lot of our dating as well. I was still going to a Bible college in Sydney. And so we only lived in the one town for about, 12 months before we got married, just over 12 months. And, we figured it out. Although I do think, I don't know if I can say that.
Okay.
I do think, we can cut this bit out.
I was like, it sounds like you're about to say it anyway.
Yeah, you know me. There were kids, like people our age on our team at church who were getting themselves into situations, and there was a lot of judgment placed on them.
Yeah.
But I think part of just being the pastor's kid, we flew under the radar a little bit, and we were probably put on a little bit of a pedestal. We didn't quite get that judgment. I think everybody thought I was so straighty 180 that I wouldn't, do anything. So I don't remember people asking, being too nosy and making sure we were doing the right thing.
Yes.
So
yeah. I mean, I guess the assumption was, of course, you would be. So, like, that means that you don't get asked the questions, right? So, So, I mean, once you're married, because obviously, like, that's the goal, right? So, like, once you get married and you've sealed the deal, and what was church life like for you guys as a couple, and transitioning into being pastors and things like that? What was church life like as a couple?
I personally loved it.
We were all in.
We were
like that couple. Yeah.
So I loved it. We got married, couple of years married at where we lived in rural Victoria, and then Liz's dad took on a church up here on the Central Coast, and Liz moved up here early.
I moved up here a few months before
Maybe,
Jesse
yeah.
did, because he still had gigs booked
Sorry,
that he
I think
had
that was
to play
me.
out.
Sorry, I thought
But we were all in. And when my dad took on the job up here, there was really no question as to whether or not we would come up. And our whole life was built around church. We were even laughing about it the other day. We just got back from 2.5 weeks in Bali for a friend's wedding. And we love travel. It's something we've discovered in midlife and want to do more of it. But I remember being in our 20s, which is typically, and childless in our 20s, typically when people can go do all the fun adventure stuff. And we were like, you know, we would say to each other back then, can't believe people don't take the church seriously enough to, you know, take multiple weekends off at a time. Like, and I think though, even back then, I won't speak for you, but there was like a real silent jealousy in me for people taking time off. But because of who I was and the pastor's daughter, and we were pastors, I just knew that was never a possibility in the current life I was living. So I think a lot of our ideas around church and what we could and couldn't do was built around this sunk cost bias of this is the life we've chosen. And so, well, for me anyway.
I think for me, I started to feel the same towards the end of our church experience, because like as the shine wears off, then you start to look around and go, I remember we were campus pastors. I remember driving on a sunny Sunday morning, driving through a tourist, because I had to drive through this tourist town on our way to the campus that we passed. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning. I had to go to this hall and set up chairs and volunteers and all that kind of stuff. And I'm watching people running in the sunshine and drinking coffees and laughing, and families swimming. And I'm like going, they're all going to hell. But in my mind, I'm consciously saying they're all going to hell. And in my heart going, I wish I could do that. Like
the dissonance. It's when that dissonance starts happening.
And that's what, I think the dissonance, like that was the real loud clanging that started to, and now I can really see that my true self, the heart, was going, this is what I long for. And the head, like that's what that clanging is. And at some point, if you don't listen to that, it's going to rip you apart. Like,
absolutely.
And well, to a degree, it ripped us apart and then revealed the true self, if that makes sense. So,
because let's, like, to be clear, we didn't leave church because we wanted to go to the beach on a Sunday.
No,
But that's just indicative of the lifestyle that we had. We never went away for more than 10 days, 2 weeks at a time. We are like, church life was so urgent for us. Every day was like, what
you never have a weekend off though. Like it
never
was,
have a weekend off. Yeah. So that's just indicative of the kind of hamster wheel that we were on for a good long time. Yeah.
Would you say that you guys had, I guess, what would be have been considered like a traditional biblical marriage in terms of gender roles and things like that?
I would say in the beginning, definitely. But it wasn't even something that we thought about, really.
No,
it just was.
You're just running on the rails that that were shown to you, I guess. Example to you. So.
And while we didn't have kids, that wasn't such a big deal. Like, we had our first kid when I was 28, and then a second when I was 30. I think. I can't remember, somewhere around there. And so when the kids came along and life got a bit bigger, it was, it became more apparent how those gender roles might not be quite serving anybody well in the family. Mostly me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, was it there in terms of, and I'm sort of asking this question because even though I married someone of the same sex, even this sort of still came up early on, was like there were those undertones of like, even though we were the same gender, we still were trying to ascribe to traditional gender roles. And so did you I guess like biblically lead the household, Jessie? Like in terms of like spiritually led?
I don't know if I can't really remember thinking or feeling that way.
I remember having a conversation. Okay. I'm laughing because
I'm like,
my best friend Sarah
running through something in her head.
One of
I
my
could
best
too.
friends, Sarah, they started coming to our church around the time I had my first kid, so 15, 16 years ago. And she asked us point blank, she's like, you know, who is the head of your home? And I said to her, Jesse is the spiritual head of my home and he makes the decisions, which I think before then, if somebody had said that that's what I thought, I would have thrown up. And I can't remember saying it to her, but apparently Jesse was the head of our home and he made the spiritual decisions. But I think for us,
our relationship's always been pretty mutual.
It's always been pretty,
so like, yeah.
We've always managed to somehow not get too trapped. We've always been a little bit left of center, even when we were very conservative and in fundamentalism. We've always managed just to be a little bit off kilter enough that we get the signals, you know, that things might not be working or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's like the regurgitated responses, knowing what the other person wants to hear in that situation as well. Like if we think the other person wants to hear you say that Jesse's the head of the house, then that's what we say, right?
That's what you
So
say.
it's like
Yeah,
the regurgitated
definitely.
sort of like scripts that we are given that we just say without thinking sometimes, which is probably why you have no memory of saying it.
Probably. And I think you are spot on. I've just thought though, it's not really gender roles, like in terms of delineation of domestic duties or whatever in the house, but definitely I think gender roles in terms of emotionally what we bring to the marriage and the relationship and our children. You know, growing up in fundamentalism, I was very much taught how to be codependent and a people pleaser.
Yeah.
So even in saying to Sarah, oh yeah, Jesse's the head of the home, I can see now through many years of therapy and work that was me being pleasing, saying what I thought I needed to say. And that's sort of the role I played in the family too. Like, what do I need to say and do to be acceptable, to be pleasing? I mean, there's nothing that I thought of consciously, but that was subconsciously built into my makeup, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the gender roles for us have probably been more, you know, in the foundation, not in the practicalities.
Yeah. Yep.
I agree.
Now I know that you go into more detail in your episode, Liz, about like, I guess, what led you out of this space and the volcano eruption essentially that happened. But what was that like for you both navigating that together? Because it wasn't just a small thing that happened for you guys.
Yeah, no, not at all. I probably didn't realize how disruptive it was at the time going into it. It's like going into a storm and going, I'm just on my journey. And then you're like, oh shit, this is hectic. Like, and not realizing, like Liz probably said it in her podcast because I've heard her say it before, but like literally I resigned from church pretty much on a, I think this is what I need to do. Like it wasn't here's what I'm going. It wasn't any kind of a plan. It was like I just had this sensation that I needed to resign, and everything would I'd find my way.
Yeah.
And so I resigned from church. It inevitably took months because it kept getting delayed by the senior leadership. Like, oh, in your contract, you got to give us, 90 days or something like that notice. I can't remember what it was. It was something ridiculous anyway. So, and then when I first handed in I verbalized my resignation. This funny thing happened where the senior pastor went away for 2 weeks afterwards. When he came back, he's like, I said, let's talk about our resignation. I want to finish up. And he's like, I thought you were just having a little fit that day. It was so dismissive of my personhood and so gaslighting. And
just to get a meeting about it.
Yeah. It was kind of like swept it under the rug and acted like it was just a little tiny thing that I was
having
going
a little
through. You know what I mean?
that day.
Yeah.
A tantrum.
Which was totally unlike my personality to do. I was very much a toe the line kind of personality. Never threw tannies to get my way. Anyway, finally I resigned, like the last day occurred, and then we went away. I must have had 4 weeks of annual leave or something. So we went down to see our family and stuff like that. And on that drive, I just remember the wheels falling off the cart. I was like, okay, so what is church for? Oh, church is to get people saved. Okay, what's getting people saved for? What does the Bible say about that? And it's like, I started to dig into all those questions. And once I started to dig beneath the surface, I was like, a lot of this doesn't have any significant meaning in the human experience, really.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not dismissing Christianity, but I'm dismissing, but like my experience of evangelical Christianity was, it's such a wheel spinning process. Like, it's such a wheel spinning system where everything's moving. There's lots of action and nobody's bloody going anywhere. And, and lots of people are expending energy and no fruit is coming from it. So, and the more I dug into that, the more I was like, because I had every intention to go back to church. I was just like, going to have 4 weeks off, get it, like go into my new job. Like, I got a job working at a coffee roaster, and then I was going to come back to church. Well, I never went back to church ever again. like once I was free to question all of that, because my income wasn't dependent on it anymore. My role as a significant person wasn't. The only real thing tying me to church was really family and some friendships.
Yeah.
And in the weighing of all of that for me personally, I was like, I can toss all that out. That's all the cost I can pay, because it's not true to who I am. So that was the storm. That was the way I felt coming out. How did it affect us? Like, I not resigned. I was at peace with the fact that Liz could figure it out for herself. Like, I was like, she can keep going to church. I'm not going to church. Like, if she wants to go to church, if she wants to continue thinking the way she wants to, and I trust that it'll all come out in the wash, like, however it comes out. So I felt I didn't feel afraid for our marriage or our family. I thought, I'll cross that bridge if I need to cross that bridge, really. That was my approach and process towards it. I think Liz, like, speaking on behalf of her, she'll speak for herself in a second, but I felt like Liz was probably a little more concerned at first. And then as it started to unfold, she could see it was going to be okay. That makes sense. Did I represent that to you?
Yeah, I think it's probably significant for you to talk about a little bit, because us leaving church and deconstructing was almost a 3 to 4 year journey.
Process,
That started with my dad, who was a senior pastor of our church, came out that he was living a double life.
Yeah.
I hear my mum, the story, and how that affected you. And so there was 4 years, 2 to 3, 4 years there where you were really holding everything together for the sake of the church, for the sake of whatever it was that we were holding everything together for. So when you finally
let go,
it was like you were holding your breath for so long.
Yeah.
And on that drive down to see our family, you actually had that exhale, and that's when you went, oh, what have I been doing?
Yeah.
Like, there was sort of 4 years worth of very pent up.
I think, like, Liz's dad being the pastor, I really kind of enjoyed. I think Liz might have struggled with it more being his daughter and the family tension, but I kind of really enjoyed being a pastor and going to church and all that in that dynamic. We inherited some quite post Liz's dad, like, so it came out, that was a massive shock for us, like, that her dad was living a double life, had been having affairs for most of his married life, and so that really changed the dynamic, and it really forced me to ask where my Christianity was at, and I just dug in more, like, at that point. So then we inherited these quite famous pastors, and that felt, it's to me, I was like, oh, this is a God thing. Like, this is a miracle handed to us. We're all our dreams of what church should be like are going to come to pass. And my experience of that was completely different. Like, I remember in the last couple of years of them being the pastors and me working underneath them, I remember one night, one of them getting up and going, "This is what heaven's going to be like." And I remember saying inside myself, if heaven's like this, I don't want to go to heaven. If heaven's like another fucking church service, I don't want to go to heaven.
There was lots of those moments before the final, resignation.
So, like, that last experience of church really, really, like, it was like, I've reached the pinnacle, and it's not anything like
It's not
what
right.
I managed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, particularly for you, Liz, like obviously, this was your dad. Like we had a huge, like that's a huge emotional fallout. There's so much like
Yeah.
anger and grief and fear and like all of those really big, heavy emotions. And so what was it like for you to just even exist in a relationship with Jesse through all of that?
It was incredibly humbling. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say humbling. I felt I internalized a lot of humiliation.
Yeah.
I really prided myself back then as being someone, a quote unquote, who was a little prophetic or a little, my intuition was good. I could read someone really well. And little did I know what I had been living with pretty much my whole life started when I was just a little baby.
Yeah.
So I felt humiliated. And I remember back when I was maybe 18, when Pat Mesiti, everything that, I don't know if we can name names so you can block it out, whatever. When that all came out, we got a letter from the AOG because my parents were pastors explaining that he'd been stepped down and all of that. I think you might have even been in the kitchen, but someone was with me and I said, thank God I never have to worry about that with my parents. Then it happened with my parents.
Yeah.
And then I was like, is anything safe? Like, and I think a little bit similar to Jesse, I just doubled down on, looking right, being right, saying the right things. If I just toe the line, maybe we'll make it. Serve the church.
Tithe a little bit more, like give more in the offering.
Oh, the tithe, Sam.
Yeah.
I
give more, I'll receive more.
Yeah. You look after God's house, got to look after your house.
Yeah.
And we really
all of the cliches.
Oh God. We really lent on those going, well, if there's any time for God to show God's self as being God, now is it.
Yeah.
So we did it. And even when we got the news of who was going to take on the church, we were like, oh, we're being saved again. Like this is just a God thing. And like Jesse, I would say there was the heartbreak of what happened to my family and how difficult that was. But then the couple of years afterwards were probably more difficult. I was carrying so much pain. And I was told by because it was a fairly big church here on the coast with lots of staff. It wasn't just a family, situation. And some of the staff had told me, nobody wants to hear about your dad. It's head down, bum up. Like there was no way for us to process what we had been through. In fact, we got, in figuring out what my dad had done and what to do with him, the state executive had aimed a fair bit of accusation and blame towards us.
Like we'd kept it, they were trying to suss out if we'd kept it undercover for
however long. And then even...
And so like we're going, hang on.
And then even the state executive were like, oh, if you were in any other church, you'd be fired and you'd never work in a church ever again. I'm like, we're the kids, like we haven't done anything. So we were kind of gaslit into being really grateful for still having a job and still being included.
Yeah.
And I just doubled down on everything. The good thing about us is we've always talked, and because we've had that friendship, like we talked everything through. We were able to kind of, I think the crisis of it and the chaos of it just pushed us together a little bit.
Yeah.
I would say it wasn't until a few years after that, like when God wasn't the head of our home and we didn't have a common spirituality keeping us together, we really had to find what was that thing, that essence, that was the glue in our marriage. Because up until that point, I had thought, well, we're going to be in ministry together and we're going to believe the same things together and we're going to have a common purpose and a common thing to...
Once that disintegrates, what have you got?
What have you got?
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think, like it's really been communication has been our way through that. We've always, because we've been good friends and we talk all the time.
Yeah.
And even now, like we've been married for 20 odd years.
20-something years.
And like we can talk until the night. Well, if I don't fall asleep first, but we can talk into the night.
Yeah.
when there's no kids around and we can have conversations with it, we can continue to talk and find common ground and find common direction. I'm very much, and Liz is awesome for this, but I'm very much a question asker. Like, I challenge everything, including what she believes and including what I believe.
Yeah.
To maddening amounts for her. So, but I also think that has been a pathway through all of this. So, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, because I mean, the
oh, no,
reality is that like that huge amount of emotional fallout, like there's so much dysregulation, but also that head in the sand mentality just means that you are so disconnected from yourself and what is happening, and probably mass amounts of dissociation happening also to make it make sense, essentially. The reality is that that would force even the best of couples to drift apart, for there to be conflict, for there to be disconnection in the relationship. And so, like, if I thought miracles happened, I would almost say that that would be a miracle like that you were able to still communicate and for that to not just go up in flames.
We were really lucky, I think, luck and hard work all mixed together. But the year that we left church was the same year that my brain, the Liturgist podcast
started.
came out.
Yeah.
And I grew up listening to Michael Gungor and, all of their music because we were, similar age, similar churches, all that kind of stuff. So when they started talking about some of their journey, we'd never heard anybody talk about deconstruction up until it happening to us. So we weren't really sure what we were going through ourselves.
But it was like, I remember listening to a Liturgist podcast where they talked about their deconstruction. It was probably like episode 5 or 6 of their podcast. And I was like, holy shit, there's someone else in the world. Like, this is not, I feel like what we did was, there's this big cruise liner, and we said to that cruise liner, up yours, we're paddling away in a little rowboat. And I thought, like, it kind of looked and felt like that had never happened before. But when we heard the liturgist, it was like, someone else has done this. Like, and I remember actually crying because I felt some sense of relief that I wasn't on my own. Like,
we'd light candles, we'd get a bottle of wine, we put the kids to bed, and listening to that podcast was our date night. But it was like we had from that. I'm so grateful for it, which is why I love doing these sorts of podcasts, because
it helps other people.
It just helps. Yeah. Like, the more we can talk about this stuff, the better. But we had that podcast really led us into having some pretty big conversations. Like, what do we think about monogamy? What do we think about our kids and, being teenagers? What are we going to do? How are we going to talk to them about sex and sex before marriage? And what are our values going to be around that? What about what we believe politically? Does everything need to line up for us to be aligned? And so that podcast really helped us have some of those hard conversations. But I would say, from what I went through with my dad and then what I went through with the pastors that took on the church after that, I was very much in a state of dysregulation. And so I wasn't going to question anything, because I just felt so unsettled in my own life. So Jesse deconstructed, and I was like, I'm powerless to stop anything or do anything.
I just felt free to just let it all unravel.
Yeah.
And but I was having this experience of, we should be going to church. And I think I tried to have the conversation with you once when you said, I'm never going back to that place.
Yeah.
I said, well, you've got to call someone and tell them. And I was like, they can call me. And I was like, I felt like the right thing, not the right thing, but what we had been told is the right thing to do, we should do it. But the fact that he said, I'm not doing it, I was having these visceral feelings of relief.
Yeah.
And I was like, how can I stop him from doing something that is making me feel safe and relieved? So I was having these weird kind of
cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. Physical sensations for a number of years after that. It's probably been more the last 6 or 7 years where we have different ideas on spirituality, different ideas even on some political things, parenting, that we've really had to employ some really good tools on how to keep our marriage. And like, we've had some really hard years and some really good years, but
I mean, in terms of once you sort of, and it's obviously not uncommon that you enter into those deconstruction stages at different paces and at different times. But if we move into that part of your world, one of the questions that came up, I threw a story in my, Instagram stories, a question box in there. And one of the questions was, how did you navigate potentially holding different beliefs at different times, particularly when some of those beliefs have been foundational for you, either your whole entire life or a really big portion of it up until that point, because that can cause a lot of conflict.
A lot of conflict. Do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about how it outworked itself for me. I mean, I said earlier that like I trusted, I just had some trust or faith or whatever you want to call it that it had come out in the wash.
Yeah.
I really sensed within myself that I had to be true to myself. And so being true to myself doesn't mean just abusive to everybody else. It means I think being true to yourself is really finding out who you are in your core, like being still and silent and using inward analysis to recognize who you are and then allowing that to come out. And I thought if I was true to myself, then in whatever that way that outworked itself, then things would be okay, however we ended up. And so for me, that was I'm deeply analytical, and question asking. So that was like reading. I just read a lot. Like I read hundreds of books in the years after church. Like I didn't read any books except for bloody Bill Hybels and the Bible, like at church, and a Brian Houston book and maybe Phil. What's his name?
So good.
Phil, the guy from Triple C in Oxford Falls. That guy.
Yeah,
anyway,
that
Phil Pringle. I read one of his books. I remember. That's about all I read.
I was like, we're not getting any better with that progression of men.
No.
And Joyce Meyer. So it wasn't just men; it was one woman. And so, like in a decade and a half, I think that's all I read, and then the Bible, and then post my church, I literally just went headlong into books. Like I discovered I could listen to books, and that became an unlock for me. And then I was running. I started running every day. It was so funny to outwork this internalized stress. Yeah. I started running, and I could feel it was so meditative and stuff. And I just listened to a book on high speed and run. So I was like learning and decompressing all of this shit at the same time. Yeah. And that really helped me find myself, like analyzing the world from all these other perspectives helped me go, oh, okay, so what do I align with all of this knowledge? And then once I could find myself, then I could just trust that Liz would find herself. That mostly, and then we just communicated a lot. Like,
I mean, there were some epic fights in between all of that.
Yeah.
But we were always epic fighters. Like even as Christians, we were epic fighters. So like it wasn't anything new.
We know how to conflict.
And I think like that's even been a journey for us now. Like even 20 years into our marriage, like we're going, do we really want to fight like this, or do we want to be more healthy in our conflict? And so
he probably had a bit more of a regulated experience after we left church, because I think, like I touched on before, I just seen my parents lose their marriage and all their friendships and pretty much everything that they'd built for 20 years, and it was devastating.
And never talked to her dad again.
I still don't have a relationship with my dad. There was a very dramatic court case that happened. Yeah. And
you were quite physically unwell through a lot of this too, weren't you?
Yeah.
I became unwell after
she was No. You like all through our like she would have, I've got a sore back. I have a sore back, and she go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, I can't find what's wrong. I think you need back surgery. And then the next thing it would be like, I think I've got carpal tunnel syndrome. I've got a migraine. I've got tinnitus. And like all it was, like Liz didn't know. And I think therapy has really helped to unlock all of this.
I've always been a sensitive little soul.
She's sensitive.
Yeah, you hold it all in your body.
Yeah, she holds it in her body, and her body tries to figure out how to deal with it, so it outworks itself and all these.
But I did become quite
ill.
chronically ill after we left the church. But I think there was a lot of fear keeping. I felt very hypervigilant in the years after leaving church. We also had 2 little kids and no money. So I unlike Jessie, I didn't quite feel the freedom to find my true self. I was still scrambling a little bit. I just started this business back then called Pocket Fuel, which had gone viral, all about
the Bible,
devotionals,
daily devotionals.
And I'm
still
wondering,
love the fact that I used to have it as a teen.
That's
I love it.
funny.
Yeah,
that's hilarious, Sam. The world is a crazy place. And so I was still trying to figure out how I could provide for our family, but not write anything I didn't believe in, and what did I actually believe. Like the unwinding of my beliefs probably took a little bit longer. Where Jesse had only been in the church since he was 21, a lot of this stuff had been baked into my being, and I didn't know a lot of it. And still now I'll be in with my therapist and I'm like, oh, that onion layer that I just peeled off this last couple of months, I didn't know was there. And, you know, like.
And it revealed something else.
And so I incubated a fair bit. I isolated myself a fair bit from my friends. I mean, a lot of our friends were still in church, and I didn't want to disrupt what we had because it was almost all that I had. So it wasn't until that I got quite ill and then I started to understand what was happening, like the gut-brain connection, the stress and the silence was keeping me sick. And so then I started to talk about what I really felt and how I really felt and what I really believed with a bit more freedom, that I became well. By that point, I think enough time had passed that I could see that we could still trust each other in a quote unquote secular relationship. And we had talked about some things enough that I knew I could start, you know, putting my toe in the water in terms of who am I and what do I really believe. And there was some surrender that needed to happen too. I think a lot of people do really hold on to this idea that to be in a good marriage, you need to believe the exact same things, vote the exact same way. And the more and more we got away from church, the more our personalities could find their own space in the world. And I think some people find that threatening because they see all the things that could, you know, pull them apart. Instead, I think we both made a fairly we committed to really trying to see the beautiful parts of that and try and celebrate that. Like it was a decision that we had to make to not try and hold on to old versions of each other and make each other play roles or games or things that we think we needed in order to stay connected and safe.
Yeah.
What did that look like practically? Because I'm just thinking like there is going to be so many people listening to this going, yeah, but like I don't know how I would feel if my husband, wife, partner felt or believed this thing or voted this way or had this kind of ideology. Like how did you practically not let that drive you apart? What conversations did you have and how did you navigate those?
Oh, it's a different perspective. Like, look, where do you want to go with this conversation? The macro idea of it is I really believe that we're losing the skill to have nuanced conversation and public discourse. So that's the macro picture. Our children are growing up in an age where everything is a soundbite on TikTok, on Instagram, on Snapchat. Nobody is spending the time mining for details. Why do you think that? Where does that belief come from? And how is that shaping you? And so like there was a little while, I remember leaving church, I'd voted, I'm going to say names of parties, but there's no shade or judgment, people, okay? So be free.
Yeah.
But I remember voting Green for the first time in my life, right? And my mother was not about it.
Yeah.
And I think you voted for somebody else.
I probably donkey voted, actually.
He donkey voted for quite a number of years, which I had a real problem with because I'm like, if we're going to change this country, you can't be wasting your votes. But when we bothered to sit down with each other and say, I would say, why are you doing that? It's infuriating. And then he would explain why in a not in a power over way, in a, hey, let me talk to you about it. And we could ask each other. I mean, look, we got it wrong many times. We fought till 2 or 3 in the morning. We've sworn at each other. We've thrown around the divorce word. Like it hasn't always been sunshine and
I think
health.
we've come and long after we left church, in the unpacking of all of this, it's really come down to the nitty gritty. What do I really believe? How much do we want to be together? And I think we skirted dangerously close to the line of going, what do we want to be together? And rather than rushing that decision, like just sitting in it. And I think because sometimes in an emotional state, you make a rash and snap decision, and then you're stuck with the consequence of that decision. And I'm very much a thinker under stress. So like I can say something rash, but I don't think that I would take the action without some long form consideration. So but like anything, everything has a heartbeat or a breath. And so your marriage has, like, I think about our whole married life, it has had ups and downs and ups and downs. And every time we've been through the down, we've always come back to the up. And one of the things I can say overarching macro is that the ups keep getting higher. And even the bottoms keep getting higher, if that makes sense. Like the valleys are actually, I think, touch wood, and, as humbly as I can say it, we've been probably, hopefully, through the lowest parts of our married life.
Oh God, I hope so.
But that, like, even just the hope of that, I think helps a marriage. Like, you can't have this without some goal to move towards, without some kind of sense of we're going somewhere together. So,
and did you do all of this on your own, or did you both go to therapy together?
I've never
been
to
on our own.
Yeah, well, I've never been to therapy. Have I?
Jesse.
No, he's never been to therapy.
Everybody should go to therapy at least once.
Liz, this is Liz. This is Liz. You're just replicating her to me.
Sam and I didn't talk before this episode. We didn't talk at all.
Liz is always like, I think you need to go to therapy. And I've read dozens of books on psychology.
You should stop now while you're still.
You can make fun of me and you can laugh at me. And also, I can also be myself. And like, I have, and look, I'm happy to go to couples therapy. Like, we've recently talked about this. I'm happy to go to couples therapy.
He's just stating it on
the record.
On the record. And Liz can pull this out when she needs it.
Make a reel out of this part.
I will.
But that being said, like, I feel like when I reflect on myself, I feel like I've navigated things mostly pretty well. And then I can hear from Liz and her journey and reflecting at the way that I have behaved. I can see the trajectory of my life coming out of this.
Look, I think one of the lucky things, and this is luck for both of us, is being in church for so long. Like, we counseled people we had no business counseling, right? But we're used to talking about things. We're used to
communication is super key. Like, it's actually
it's really key.
One of the values that I came out of church with was a Brene Brown quote, which is clear is kind and unclear is unkind. And it's literally like a core value for me. I permeate it through our relationship with our kids, in our businesses, with our staff, with our friendships. Like, I can literally go, if that person is not going to be clear with me, they have no business being in the circle of my life. Like, if I can't talk about things openly with them, and so I think that's a really key part, has been a really key part. Like we've talked earlier on, we've kind of communicated our way through this.
We've communicated. We've done lots of reading, listened to lots of podcasts.
I think a commitment to lifelong learning is another key.
Is another key to that
part. Like, we are both learners. Like, we're self-directed learners. We seek out perspectives and advice and
But I did just want to say, I think one of the hardest things
I love
for me,
you're basically physically telling Jesse, shut up.
Well, now that you've said that you're happy to do couples therapy, you don't need to say anything else for the rest of the night.
Done. Podcast over to Liz now.
I'm joking. One of the most difficult things is, like, in any sphere of life, I think, is trying to let go of trying to control other people to feel safe.
Yeah.
And that was a very big, as much as I think we've highlighted, we always communicate, blah, 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 we do all these good things. We have tried to control the heck out of each other as well.
At times, yeah.
At times, to feel safe in the ways that we were taught. Me, it's through people pleasing, and I have done so much for you. Can't you see everything that I've done and everything that I do? And I've had to really, like, we hit probably a pretty low point in our marriage maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah, maybe
a bit more. And I had to really, I couldn't figure it out because I thought, I'm a fucking great person.
Yeah.
And I do all this fucking great stuff. And why isn't it working? And so,
but then part of you also doubted that too.
I did have a lot of bad self-image situations going on as well. But trying to let go of controlling another person, I think we all do it to an extent, to make us feel safe, to make us feel like we belong, like we're okay, we're on the right path. To let go of that, there's a great quote, I think it's by T.S. Eliot, and he says, the beginning of love is to let the person you love be themselves fully. Yeah. It sounds like I've paraphrased it. Yeah. It sounds like such a lovely thing. It is so much hard work to outwork in a marriage. And I think for the most part, as much as we can in the different stages that we've been through, we do try to do that for each other. Yeah.
It's another thing that I've found personally for me is if I find that my vision of Liz is judgmental, I'll get that version of her, and
baby.
And do you know what I mean? Like the more I am critical of her, the more I see the best in her, I get that version of her. Yeah. And I think it's challenging in, like, I'm now trying to talk to your audience who are in this situation. The longer you're in a marriage and the patterns you've built of criticizing each other, of niggling one another, of stuff like that, if you can start to look for and affirm the best in the other person, you'll get that version of that person out. And if you're criticizing that person, you'll get that part of their personality out, and it continually compounds a problem. And that's what I think divides relationships. And it took all of what we've been through for me to really find that and discover that. Yeah, it's like, you understand a lot about the brain. I think an interesting fact about neuroscience. This is the analytical
We're
side.
about to be getting
out here for a moment, aren't you?
So, rough consensus is we take in about 1 billion bits of information per second, right? And then the brain can only process 10 bits of information per second. That is like 100 million X less of reality. And so our worldviews are really formed on this little narrow bandwidth. Wherever we point that to reality is what we get. Mm-hmm. And so it's really important. And the way that we get the reality that we want is we point that bandwidth, and then then the brain starts to affirm it, confirmation bias and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. More miracles have happened to me post my Christianity by just pointing my worldview at the right things than I ever had in my my Christianity. It's so interesting. And I think for my marriage, the more that I see the best in Liz, the more the best that I get out of her, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think too, when people are deconstructing, give yourselves a freaking break, because it's such a, like, it can be such a fearful time.
Yeah.
Like, everything is changing.
Yeah, that's true.
Your value system are changing. The vision that you might have had for your life, where you thought, I just remember being frozen, like really experiencing such a frozen state for a long time, because I grew up getting prophecies in those types of churches about the woman I would be, the man I would marry, and the ministry that we had together. So when we left church, particularly when old mate over here was saying, I'm never going back to that place, I'm like, all the dreams that I'd had, they weren't necessarily my dreams, like as in the things that I dreamt about being as a little girl, but they were the things I thought I needed to be
Yeah.
to live a blessed life, get into heaven, get the
Mhm.
lotto ball of blessing dropped on my head, all the things that I was taught that I needed to get.
Yeah.
So watching those dreams die in front of
Mhm.
me
Yeah.
was a really fearful time. And when we're trapped in fear, we very rarely make good choices.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
there's so much grief in that, right? Like in the changes
so
that
much
happen in
grief.
your relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, so much. I thought, like, and I know being outside of the church now that this is a little bit of a ridiculous line of thought. Neither of us are educated. Like, we haven't been to university or whatever. In
You're
that
calling
sense,
Bible college not education, Liz. How dare you?
I am right here on this podcast.
Oh
Well, the one I went to anyway. None of us are. So we had these positions of leadership and authority in a church that made me feel good about myself. I'm just being really honest and really real. So even a part of what am I going to do now? Just work at a shoe shop. Love shoe shops, by the way. If you work in a shoe shop, it's beautiful. I own a deli now. So I make sandwiches for a living. Like, if I knew that back when I was leaving church, there would have been a part of my ego that went, that's not going to fulfill you or sustain you. Like, this is what you want. And so there was a lot of unlearning that I needed to do about significance, what it means to have purpose, what brings me worth and a sense of belonging, because all of those things were built like on lies and on foundations of quicksand when I was a child growing up. So I think because, Jesse was able to get a job fairly quickly, we had a little bit of security. The app had just started doing really well. We actually were able to breathe a little bit and not make any too rash decisions out of fear. My therapist has always said to me too, don't make a call on your marriage if you're safe, you're not being financially abused. If you can guarantee your safety, emotional and physical and financial, then these are long decisions, not quick decisions to make. And I was safe. I was, my kids were safe in any kind of tension that we've had and in any kind of figuring out who we are and what direction we're going to take our lives.
Yeah.
Take your time with it and talk to people, get some good sound advice, and don't let fear make some decisions for you.
And if your partner, like, I would also say, don't rush. Like Liz said, if you're safe, all those areas of it, don't rush the ditching your partner or throwing your partner out if they're not the person you want them to be yet. That takes a process. That is not, you don't go from here to here in a step. It takes multiple choices day in and day out. And sometimes you are the person to help bring that change to their life with small decisions. Like I said, just even my own of seeing the best in Liz. Then I changed a lot of the way that I related to it. I made sure one of the things I remember doing, I remember reading about the 20-second hug, the 20-second hug rule.
Oh,
do you know that like it
Yeah.
releases oxytocin in the brain? And so I started hugging, like holding her, not just the 2-second hug, in the kitchen, holding her and sitting with her. And I could start to see the changes, occurring because she felt held and safe. Our heart's like oxytocin released in the brain, so she felt connected. And so, like those. But it takes. You can't do that once. You got to do that That's how your relationship started. That's how your relationship started. You started hugging each other and kissing each other and all that kind of stuff. And 20 years into your marriage, it's just like a 1-second hug or one little peck on the cheek. Now you've got to bring back that physical sense of closeness as well as the perspective that you're, close.
I think it's 20-second hug, 6-second kiss is the numbers attached to that.
Wow.
Yeah. But okay, because I love when people just like do my job for me in these podcasts, which is like, usually I ask like, what do you want to tell people? But I'm going to shift a little bit before we completely change avenues and talk about something completely different. what wins and beautiful moments and joy have come out of deconstructing? Because I think, we've talked a lot about the heaviness and the conflict and, the fear and the grief
Yeah,
and all
good.
of that. But there's also so much beauty and joy and pleasure and all of that that comes from that as well. So what has that been like? Like, let's give some people some hope.
Some
Yeah.
hope. I think, so many things, so many
Yeah.
things. I mean, even I'll just go
Yeah, you go.
straight there. Sexually,
Yeah.
there's such a freedom because you can start to even talk
Yeah.
about what you like,
Oh, I'm a
what you
firm
want.
believer with my couples. If you can't talk about sex, don't have sex, please. Like,
Oh my gosh.
talk,
But we don't
yeah.
talk about it. Like if in churches, you're not
Yeah.
taught. Like I was literally taught that if you didn't have sex before marriage, you would have great sex after
Yeah.
marriage. And I was always, because lovely gentleman here had previous partners. So I was a bit nervous.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'd always had pretty good sex. So I was like, there's some disconnect there in the teaching, but we still
Yeah.
never really talked about what we liked, what we wanted, what worked for us. So even just having fun with that is something that you can explore and figure out together. And when you're not too serious about it, you can
Mhm.
have a whole lot of fun and do a whole lot of
Yeah.
laughing. I
Yeah.
mean, just the fact that we regained a fucking weekend was a revelation.
Yeah. Sunday mornings and Sunday
Sunday morning.
evenings. Yeah.
Oh, and particularly because we both worked for church, for the first time in our adult lives, we were paid appropriately after we left
Yeah.
church.
We
in
went
our
from
other
broke,
jobs.
like we literally had a net worth of zero leaving church,
Yeah.
pretty much. And like financially, I can see we've had big wins.
We
Like
just lived
we've-
week to week.
Yeah. Well, now we
in
don't live
church.
week to week. And
Yeah.
the other thing is like, I feel like our kids have grown up really quite healthily, and we're seeing the fruit. Like we've got a mid-teenager, and a kind of like an early teen, and I'm really proud of the people that they are. They kind of had the same upbringing as me, and they had the first early years of their life in church, probably not understanding church or even, but then they just transitioned into like normal secular kids, and they're really they're both older ones are such good kids. Like they're
really good people,
and I'm proud of them as a parent. Like,
Yeah.
and that's a massive win. Like we have friends who still go to church. They don't believe it. They're like, we grew up in church and it kept us safe from the world. And I'm like, that's not resilience building. That's just like, and I feel like we've really been resilience focused with our children, and it's like we've still got a ways to go, but like we're seeing the dividends of that, and that's a massive win post deconstruction.
I just think
going on
holidays,
we're
still in the practical.
Like
we went away for a month last year, or we've gone away for a month a couple of times now.
And
sounds
it's like,
ridiculous, but
it's so important for relationship building. You can't and for self-nurturing, like for soul restoring, like being away from your normal environment, for allowing yourself to breathe and rest and all that, those kind of things. It's so important, and we just kind of dismiss it. I think even in the secular world, I don't think people holiday enough, to be honest, but it's been a real key value of mine post. I just remember, like Liz said, when we're in church, I'd watch people go on holidays and I'd feel a sense of resentment towards it, and I'd justify it with holiness or, and now I'm like, actually, if I'm honest with myself, I wanted to live that and do that for myself and for our family and for our marriage. So,
I know we keep talking. We could talk for hours.
Because we're talking.
But I just wanted to say because it can be really scary letting go of your old beliefs and trying to figure out what kind of person you're going to be afterwards. But when you can finally let go of some of those more dogmatic ideas of heaven and hell and what makes you a worthy person and a good person. I remember going down the slippery slope going, holy shit, am I going to be alive at the end? And I was alive and well at the end and free at the end. I don't dream about going to hell anymore. I don't fear for my children. I don't the mental freedom that you can find when you do the work to get released from some of these dogmatic ideas and foundational, I talk about it in my own work as a mechanism of fundamentalism, which is very much leans into black or white thinking, codependency, all or nothing type living, where you're in or you're out, when you can be more nuanced with your thoughts, when you can flow a little bit more, when you can let yourself not know something and explore and be curious.
Yeah.
Oh, the freedom in that. Like, I don't feel like I grew up hearing altar calls. If you leave this building tonight,
Yep.
and you get hit by a bus, do you know
Yep.
beyond a shadow of a doubt? Now I'm like, no, I don't fucking know now. Nobody does. Like, nobody knows what happens when we die.
Yeah.
And there's such a freedom in that. It's not scary. It's not scary at all. So when you can let yourself.
What do you believe now? Can I
Yeah.
point it this way? What do you believe now, Liz?
I believe there's something. But for me to say, I no longer feel the pressure to have that nailed down. Like our kids ask us this all the time. You know, my youngest is 6 and he discovered death a few years ago. All our children have discovered, like, when they realize that people die.
Prefrontal cortex coming online.
And we always lean into that moment because I feel like it's a pretty significant moment.
Yeah.
And so I always say to them, nobody knows what happens when you die.
Yeah.
So the point is to live here and now as best as you can, as full as you can, and as true as you can. My inkling is that something beautiful is beyond this world, that there is something connecting us all together, God, earth, us, each other. There is something bigger happening. But for me to tell you exactly what that is diminishes the mystery itself.
Yeah.
And just distracts us from being here and now in this moment.
Yeah.
So
my discovery is that you can have heaven on earth or you can have hell on earth.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. Like I said earlier, I was headlong into the church and I remember someone saying, heaven's going to be like, this is and I thought to myself in that moment, it feels like fucking hell to me. And I realized post that experience, I was living in hell. I was going to church and I was doing all the things that everyone said, but I was living in hell.
Yeah.
And post that experience, the more I lean into my truest self, I'm living in heaven. I have a beautiful wife. I have a beautiful family. I have hope for the future. And I have all of this beautiful stuff happening to me. And I feel like if heaven's going to be, whatever you feel like you get to have, like you get to experience that. I'm getting to experience all these beautiful things that are true to myself.
Yeah.
And this feels like heaven. So what I would urge everyone, live heaven now, dudes, live heaven now. You can live it now. And your life will then, rather than delaying some thing into the afterlife.
Building a mansion in heaven.
Make choices now. Make choices now that are true to yourself, and you'll find that your life will open up like it's heaven. And
I just I know we talk a lot. So I did just want to caveat before we finish.
Yeah.
If the marriage doesn't survive deconstruction, that's okay too.
Yeah, that is okay.
One of the only reasons that our marriage has done really well is because individually, apart from each other, we've done a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And our marriage wouldn't be at what it is today if I didn't feel like I was being a complete and honest and whole person in and of myself. And if old mate couldn't handle me doing that, or if I couldn't handle him doing that, we'd be having a very different conversation now. But as long as you are, I know the term do the work gets thrown around a lot, but if you are showing up for yourself and you're taking care of yourself and you're being curious and open, if the marriage doesn't survive deconstruction, there is still a big, beautiful life waiting for you and one happening in you. And that is part of your journey, and that's not anything to be ashamed of. And it's not a failure. It's just part of the story. And just because our story, there were some times there where we thought we probably wouldn't be together. And at this present moment, ask me tomorrow, but at this present moment, I'm joking, we're good. This is where we are, and I'm grateful for that. But it doesn't matter how it works out for anybody listening, as long as you are able to be true to
Honest and
yourself
true to
and
yourself,
honest, and you can do the healing that you need to do and take it step by step, then that's a win no matter what happens to your marriage.
And it does take work. Sorry but it does take work. You think to build up your Christianity, to build up all those beliefs you had together, took work. You had to go to church every Sunday. You had to read your Bible. You had to
Small groups.
all that kind of stuff. Well, it's going to take work to get a broader perspective, and that's okay. With like, to be objective, that's okay. And then, like Liz says, once you're true to yourself, you can trust that whatever unfolds is going to bring more trueness of yourself to yourself, if that makes sense. Whether it's staying with your partner or finding a new partner or being on your own,
Partnering yourself.
Yeah.
It's literally unfolding. I think to become a Christian, you really have to fold yourself up.
Yeah.
And like to fit in that bubble.
Yeah.
And like, as you unfold, you give yourself to the universe, I don't mean that in some kind of weird new age way, but like you're opening yourself up positionally when you're your truest self. Another Brene Brown quote is soft front, strong back. So when you're soft front, you're actually presenting a vulnerable part of yourself to people, the world, your situations, your co-workers, whatever, your partner. But you're being true to yourself by holding your back strong, like physically and positionally. So Anyway,
I love you guys. You guys are the best.
Aww,
and if
love you right back,
and also thank you for sharing so vulnerably about your relationship. If people have not already got enough of Liz and Jessie, please stick around next week because we are about to continue recording, but you won't hear it just yet. But we're going to talk about their kids, and we're going to talk about parenting and navigating deconstruction in the parenting world, which I have no doubt will just be filled with like mass amounts of wisdom, just like this episode has been. So thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, love you, babe. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Beyond the Surface. I hope you found today's conversation as insightful and inspiring as I did. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others who might benefit from these stories. Stay connected with us on social media for updates and more content. I love connecting with all of you. Remember, no matter where you are in your journey, you're not alone. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep moving forward. Take care.